Good afternoon, Ngozi Talk Shows family. It's Nomsa here at Ngozi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, I have Grant, Nick Motichka, Amanda Murray. Take over, guys. I need to sneeze. Grant?
Oh, fantastic. What a great introduction to the show. There we are. And interestingly enough, we're going to be talking about perhaps how certain things can affect you and today, and we're going to be talking about diet. Amanda, did you want to share the title of the show for today?
Yeah, she changed it a little bit on me because it didn't actually mean food. Just what you consume is what you become. And so I was thinking of it partially from a diet perspective, but mostly as well from what you're consuming on the television, what you're consuming on social media, what you consume from the people that you surround yourself with. So what we consume is essentially what we become, and what we consume also affects our habits. And so while diet is a tiny piece of that, it wasn't actually the focus that I wanted to focus on. It's one piece. And the reason that I picked this topic was because in the last couple of weeks, I learned about this app called Yuka, Y-U-K-A. And essentially it's an app and you download it and you scan any food or like products, not like beauty products that you bring into your home, like lotions and deodorants and any sort of beauty products, and you scan it and it tells you what's in it. And it tells you if it is something that has like toxic chemicals in it. And in the UK, where you guys are, not all of you, but Grant and Nomza, you don't have to worry about it as much as we do in Canada and the US, because you guys have actually stricter laws with these companies. And so I've been really, really conscious of some of these things, and I've always been conscious of it, but this app just makes it like so much easier for me to understand and read, because for like over 20 years, I've been super conscious about what I buy, what's in it. I've always been an ingredients list reader, but sometimes I don't know what they are, even when I'm looking at the products in the like organic section or the health section of the store. And so this app just like opens up that door for me, but it also opens up doors to teach kids about what they're consuming. And so that's why I picked the topic, and I'll get a little bit more into it and a little bit more into the details and why this is something that's so important to me, because it's super, what we consume is really what we become, and what we eat is part of that, but also the social media and other things affect us as well. What do you guys think of the topic? Because I'm super excited for it.
Thanks, Amanda. Thank you. Yeah, how your diet affects your health, and what you consume is what you become. Yes, diet, but not in the conventional sense, as we said, but it's related to diet. It makes a huge, huge difference. I mean, I think if you look back at various times in your life, you've all seen certain people who change when they eat certain foods, certain things. And it's very true. I mean, the classic one is the sugar, right? The sugar, when you take sugar, how it affects people's attitudes, how it affects people's moods. I remember being a young guy doing some work. I used to be in a rock band when I was younger. And, you know, like a lot of people in rock bands, you take on a various role of various jobs to support yourself during that time. And we did. And there was a young kid who would be very, very hyper, very, very bad. And of course, what it was, found out he was drinking loads and loads of sugary soda. Let's just say that. And he was drinking loads of it. Complete nuisance, the kid. He was a real menace, He was just hyper, loaded up on sugar, and it affected his mood. And of course, without it, he was nowhere near as bad. But yeah, this is how it affects people and certain things. So think about yourselves. Are there certain foods that have certain effects on you, affect your moods, etc.? So that's really the way that I would approach that. Nick, how about yourself? What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's super interesting, and it's really quite disheartening when you hear about all this junk that gets put in our foods and in all the products that we use and put on our body and in our bodies. And when you start to pay attention to labels and start reading some background on them. And when you think about, we're just so used to looking at that ingredient label and seeing, this giant list of chemicals that we can't even pronounce. And so it's to the point now where it doesn't really even faze us until, of course, you get kind of conscious to it. And like Amanda said, with this app, it's really brought it to the forefront for her. And it's something that I've been thinking about lately quite a bit. And every time I'm in a grocery store, and even in the organic section or whatever, it's like there's so much junk in all of our stuff. And it's really interesting too how different areas of the world are different too. And Amanda already highlighted that. And I heard, so I believe it was Kraft, or one of the big, these huge conglomerates, food companies, and I say food in air quotations. So they have 3 different formulations for Kraft Dinner, for example. So in the States, it's full of just complete garbage. The Canadian version is slightly better, but still really bad. And then the UK version is like, we can't even get that here, like, because it's so clean and it doesn't have all the different food dyes and different things in it that are proven to be terrible for us. And it's, again, just going back to how disheartening it is, because it's like, how is there 3 tiers of food for the same, species of our species? And it just doesn't make sense. And it all comes down to dollars and cents, which is just wrong on so many levels. And it's just another example of a system, and it's our food system that is broken, and it needs to be fixed. And I get it, there's economies involved and all the the money things that come into it. And but at the end of the day, we need to prioritize people's health over corporate profit. And hopefully this talk and we'll bring that to the forefront for people, and just have you start watching what's in your foods. And I'll just give kind of an example of where I've seen it affect people in my life. And that's specifically with food coloring and food dyes. And there's a lot of research on certain colors are extra bad for people. And I'm not a scientist and I don't know all the details, but it's in everything, and specifically marketed for our children. And then, so when I see, and I've experienced my own kids after they eat, let's say like a Slurpee or something like that, it's like, it's not even the sugar so much. It's something different than that sugar high, or that, that rush that you see, or when kids are kind of, jacked up on sugar. It's something even different than that. And it changes their personality, and they just act weird. And it's this crazy chemical that we've put in their bodies, and that it's so prevalent in a lot of these foods. And then again, on the disheartening side, is a lot of it is in specifically foods, and again, foods that are geared towards children. And it's something that's interesting, definitely, to talk about. And I'm glad to be talking about it today, and to hear what all of you guys think, and just to hear what people's different experiences are in different parts of the world too. So with that, over to you, Nomsa.
Mute myself, and it's not responding to me. I think I've done it. Oh yeah, it's a good topic, Amanda. Thank you so much for choosing this topic, because it's important for us to actually watch what we consume, because what do we consume is shape our perception of the world. It can either the TV, what we watch on TV, what our children watch on TV, the food that we eat. I like to keep things very simple when it comes to food that I eat here in the UK. I eat loads of vegetables. I buy simple food. And sometimes you go to the shop. I don't know whether there's loads of, like, you find the junk food is cheaper than health-wise. Like, mostly if you go, I don't know, Grant, if you go to Tesco's, you'll find that junk food is cheaper than the healthy stuff. And then you go to Waitrose. Waitrose, they try to actually cater for healthy food. But yeah, so, but if you go to different supermarket, you'll find that people, its health is being affected because of the affordability of the food. And also junk food, people, they find the junk food is like yummy. I went to KFC the other day with my daughter. She dragged me to KFC. I was like, how do you eat this food, people, every single day? It's grease, it's like oil. Honestly, when you actually, I was like, this is so disgusting. And I was like, how do people come here like every single day eating KFC? I'm not sure. The KFC that we have in Africa is still the same company, although it's merchandise. It's kind of different. It's more healthy. But now when I go back, I can't eat it because it's gone back to oil, like the one in the UK as well. So it's like they've upgraded to oil or something. I don't know. But I love Nando's. Nando's is so healthy. What about you, Grant? Do you guys have Nando's in Canada? You don't? Nick says you've got it. Have you ever been to Nando's, Amanda?
We do have some locations, but they're kind of spaced out quite a bit. I've actually never been. But I have seen it before here.
Okay, I love Nando's. It's so healthy. Everything they cook, the food is grilled. So it's really, really nice. I love it. In Africa, I used to eat the whole chicken, but I had to calm down a bit when I came to the UK. So yeah, even the Nando's here is so healthy in the UK is really nice. So you can go to different places and just watch what you eat and watch the things. Like I always say to my children, people say I'm weird when my children go to visit their friends. I always say, if my 7-year-old is 7-year-old, let her watch TV for 7-year-old, not watch older films, because you hear my daughter come in and tell me, Mommy, oh, this one is not going out with this one. I'm like, who are we talking to about here, TV or real people? He goes, on TV. I'm like, what the heck are you watching? It's the children's program. Who is going out with who? This one is not going out with who. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah, children's programs. So I'm like, okay. But then I always said to her, watch the things that are educational. She goes, Mommy, this is educational. You can learn things about life. Isn't it you and Mom and you and Daddy are having a relationship? So I'm learning all these things. I'm like, oh my God. So I have to see what she's watching when she's in the house. So it's very, very important, the topic. Amanda, you mentioned this app. What is this app?
Yeah, I just mentioned it at the start as one of the reasons why I picked this topic, because is part of what we consume. And I really believe on looking at a holistic, like conscious approach to what we're consuming. And so not only what we're consuming in our bodies and what we eat, but how much water we're consuming, what media we're consuming, and who we're surrounding ourselves with, as like this holistic approach to what we consume, so that we are getting what our body, mind, and spirit actually need. And so I just learned about this app, and now I'm like obsessed with it, because I've always been an ingredients reader. And I remember one of the things that like have always stuck out with me, and I don't even remember which teacher it was, but I think it was in elementary school. And the teacher was teaching us about health. And she said, when you look on the box on the back, the less ingredients, the better. And so even from like, I think it was like grade 4, from then on, I always was like looking on the boxes and like the less ingredients, the better. And that's what always stuck with me. And then it's just become more and more as I've grown older. And so anyways, I learned about this app, and it's called Yucca, and it's that little like carrot one on it, my phone. And so if you click into it, what you can do is you click the scan button at the bottom, and you scan whatever product it is that you want to find out what's in it. And so the reason that I love this is because a couple of weeks ago we were at Costco, and my daughter asked to buy these like Ritz like snack cracker things that have like fake cheese in the middle of them. And I was like, Ella, that's not even food. That's just chemicals. She's like, Mom, you're so obsessed with this. Like, oh, duh. And I was like, fine. This is your one thing that you're getting at Costco. You can like, this is what you, if this is what you want, this is what you can get, and like, stop arguing with me. So then I download this app and we scan that product, and I just have to find it. And the Ritz mini bites shows up as a 0. 0% health for you. And she just looked at me and she was like, oh, you're right. Because she doesn't believe me, right? I'm her mom. She's like, no, it wasn't. Like, my ex-husband used to take her to McDonald's every single day after soccer when she was like 7 years old, and I was losing my mind. And I was like, you can't go there every time after soccer, like, it's not healthy. And she's like, it's healthy, it's potatoes and blah blah blah. I'm like, those aren't even real potatoes. Like, and so I made her watch Super Size Me, which is a documentary on this guy who eats McDonald's straight for I think a month, and every time they ask if you'd like it supersized, he has to get it supersized, and he eats all of it, and he monitors his health, and what his health completely goes downhill from eating McDonald's. And so I made her watch it, and she then since then doesn't eat at McDonald's or at least is very conscious about what she eats at McDonald's, because she doesn't believe me. It has to come from somewhere else. And so what I love about this is when you go into it, it says like what additives and where it is red. And so I can click into it. It says there's 9 additives and 2 that are hazardous. And the 2 that are hazardous, it tells you exactly which ones they are. And then when you click, so these 2 are the hazardous ones. And then when you click into that, it tells you exactly why they're hazardous. And then you can go into the scientific resources as well.
Wow.
So it is just absolutely amazing. And then, so I was, my class, we're doing these stop motion videos on healthy eating is what I've decided to do as one of my projects in my class for health and wellness. And I taught them about this app. So just this week. And so they're like scanning things, and they wanted to know about this new drink that everyone's drinking in my class. And it's not a drink for children. It even says on the bottle, not consumable for children. And I teach grade 5. And so this Prime drink that they're all obsessed with. The other thing that's really cool about it is it has alternatives at the bottom. So after you scan it, it gives you other recommendations of drinks or products that are very similar to what you scanned that are a healthier option, and what their rating is too. So if you're at the store, you can scan whatever product it is. But then my students were like, I scanned a strawberry and it didn't work. I'm like, you can't scan real food. This is only for processed food. But it also works for deodorants too. And I've always been like searching for natural deodorants that work, because the aluminum in most antiperspirants is really, really toxic for you, and actually has been known to cause cancer. And so this is something that I even was like, with which natural deodorants are the best, and do they work? And so that's something that the one that I use, it said that it was only 40% good. But then when I read into the chemical, there's one chemical that's not good, but it's if you eat it. So I was like, okay, we're good. Right? It's just a mineral oil that you shouldn't consume, and that's why the deodorant was showing up as not 100% or not in the green light. But I was like, if that's the only reason, then I'm okay. I'm not eating my deodorant, so we're good. But I just absolutely love it. This, especially too, though, the one thing that's really interesting with stuff like this is, so my daughter came home with these jelly straws, and these jelly straws, she was at the lake with her friend, and she's like, Mom, these are so good. And they were making like these silly SMMR videos with it, where it's like satisfying sounds. They're like slurping them up, and she's like, they're so good, they have real fruit in them, can we get more? And I was like, let's scan it. So I scanned it, and they're horrible for you, but it's because of the food dyes. And then I click into the food dyes, and it literally says this about this, and this is what's marketed to kids in Canada and the US. It's believed to cause hyperactivity and attention deficit disorders in children when combined with sodium benzenate. It also believed to cause hypersensitivity and tolerance reactions, to cause neurotoxicity and learning and memory deficits. It can contribute to the development of some cancers. We are putting this in our food for our children that we are marketing to children and allowing it. I don't know why more people are not outraged by this. And I think it's because they're not educated on it. So when you realize this and you can look into the additives, because I would look at it quickly, not know what those chemicals are and be like, well, I guess there's some real fruit juice in it. Like it might be a healthier option than something else. But when we're marketing these to children and we're seeing like what Grant was talking about with your friend that was drinking all the pop and being super hyperactive, we have so many children in our schools that are attention deficit disorder. And I so question for parents and for doctors and for everyone out there is to look at this from a holistic approach. First, look at what are you feeding your child? And even what are you feeding your child on the television too? Because that affects their hyperactivity. Are you putting on calm sounds before bed? Are you letting them watch TV right until the moment they're supposed to go to bed? The screen time, what they're consuming on the screen, and that screen time affects their ability to sleep and their activity level. So these sort of things, when we look at it from a more holistic approach, we're actually going to probably get better results. And then we're not going to see as much hyperactivity problems in our classrooms and within our children, and not as many memory problems, and probably not as many cancers if we actually start to pay attention to what we are consuming. That's my rant. What do you think?
It's a very good rant, and I'm amazed by that app. I mean, I suppose, well, the app, I wonder what you think. I mean, what is it? Do you pay for the app, or do they just collate your data for advertising so people are making better foods? Or
no, it's free. It's a free app, and there is a paying version, and the paying version is if you want to search products, I think. But if you're just scanning them, it's free. Or maybe it's like you get a certain number of scans a day. But from what I've been using it for the last 2 weeks, it's been completely free.
Not that it really matters, because it's such a great resource. But of course, there's got to be something in it for them. Why do they do it? You know, is it a government funded thing where governments want to do it? If not, then it's consuming data. Obviously, it's gaining data, which is probably being sold to supermarkets. But then again, if it is, and that's making them say, people are more interested in these foods, so we're market healthier foods, and that's a good thing. Yeah, that's a great way to harvest data, I think, for things like that. But I'm going to get that. That sounds.
Yeah, I actually went to their website, and it explains where all their research comes from, how it's not influenced by, it's not funded by special interest groups.
Yeah, it's nice.
Like real data. And yeah, they explain all of their research and their motivation behind it on their website. So yeah, I researched it all before I've become like really obsessed with it.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I will have a look at that. It is so important because, I mean, you know, my father used to say when I was a kid, you know, hey, be careful eating that will get inside you. And he used to say jokingly, you know, of whatever it was, but just as a joke, no matter what even if he was eating something healthy, he'd say it just jokingly. But, you know, he used to say it's always worth spending money if you can on good food, because yeah, that stuff goes inside you. Yeah, quite literally stop and think what you're doing with that food. You know, you're putting it in your mouth, you're putting it in your body. So yeah, it wants to be good. And absolutely it does. It's easy to say. I mean, I don't know food in the US and Canada so much, but food's pretty expensive here. It's pretty expensive. And you're right, Nomsa, going back to what you said. Yeah, junk food is cheaper. It's cheaper, and it's packaged really well, and it probably tastes quite nice, you know, in a sense. But well, it doesn't. You know, if you get a tuned taste to clean food, as I call it, junk food, you can taste it. You can taste it after AFC and stuff like this, or chicken, you know, deep fried chicken. Do I ever eat it? Occasionally, or I'll buy one piece of chicken occasionally. Not very often, no, because it's not the sort of thing you're meant to eat very often. Obviously, I like you know, so I like to eat vegetables, and you know, I buy organic vegetables. I have them delivered. But some years ago, I had a client who was a food scientist, and asked him, I said, oh, so I bet, he said, yeah, well, we monitor farms and vegetables. And I said, so you eat organic vegetables? He burst out laughing. He said, no, of course not. I said, why is it? Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I said, but you're a food scientist. He said, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's nonsense. He said, those fields are next to the fields that are sprayed with insecticides, and it all wafts over onto them. He said, it's not sprayed on them, but it wafts over. He said, no, none of my colleagues buy that stuff. That's just marketing nonsense. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah. I mean, is it true? I mean, everybody's capable of bias in this thing, you know, and also, you know, some sort of like deviant bias as well. So are they safer? Yeah, I guess they, common sense approach, they probably are, because it's not sprayed directly. Could there be a proportion of insecticides on? Yeah, likely, but less. You're lessening chances, and I think it's still a safer thing. I'm no expert on food and nutrition whatsoever. Now, everybody will react to what I just said because we have an emotional response to what you said. But if you just listen to the pure facts, if those fields, and I say if they are next to fields that are sprayed, obviously there's going to be some fallout. Common sense. Is there going to be as much as if it's sprayed directly? No. So make a rational judgment from that. But my uncle always used to say, which is a much older generation, he's passed away now, he said the worst thing that ever happened to foods and kitchens, what? Guess. The fridge. He said the worst thing that ever happened. He used to have the cauldron out the larder. He said, which meant food didn't stay fresh for very long. If it wasn't eaten in 2 or 3 days, it had to be thrown out, and you couldn't afford to throw food out. So you ate fresh food. Everything was organic years ago. Everything was all, I mean, real organic. There was no such thing as insecticides. It said everything was fresh, you know, but lifestyle was different, right? You know, the traditional family, and I'm not promoting it or going against it, I'm just highlighting what it was. There was, Papa went to work, Mother didn't, stayed over, looked after the house. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just highlighting, put a spotlight. That's the way they lived. I got this from an architect because we were talking about condensation on walls and damp. And he said, we operate houses differently now. Houses 50, 70 years old were built for a different living style. And this is what I found interesting. He said, whereby father would go to work, mother would stay at home, would take kids to school and come back, would open the windows. And when we're in a house, we naturally produce condensation. Human bodies do. Sticks on the walls. In the morning, what would mother do? Mother would open the windows and make the beds, do the housework, and then go shopping, come back and cook food for kids. Father would come home from work. That's the way it worked years ago. So the house would naturally get cool air going through it and would take out the condensation. And we had windows that leaked a little bit of air in those days. Nowadays, we have, I don't know, you know, multiple glade, double glade, triple glades windows that don't let that out. And when do people open the windows? Sometimes they don't. They wake up in the morning, they take the kids to school, they both go to work. They come home, they put the heating on, more condensation. It builds up and builds up. Voila, you get more condensation in homes, more damp, more rising damp, which causes some illnesses. Only if you come home from work and open the windows down, which some people do. But how lives have changed. People have got busier. You know, parents now say there's deep freeze. There's the stuff with all those lovely chemicals in them. Go and cook yourself something, kids, before I get home from work. Life has changed. Lifestyle has changed. And I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here and debate. You know, does it sometimes, some of it start from there? Do we need to adjust? I'm not saying go back to the way it was, but do we need to adjust in some ways the way we start our day, the way we set up our day and our week for our families? Does that help us make those quick decisions in the supermarket? Come on, just go for that. You see it all the time. I see it. Parents, just give them that so they can get home quick. Marketers know that. Are we setting ourselves up for a fall? However, what Amanda's offered here is a great alternative to that. Just take a couple of moments, scan it. Just take a moment of care. Nomsa, you will remember in the UK, the TV chefs, or Jamie Oliver did a thing for school dinners. Do you remember? He went around looking at school dinners, looking at their budgets and saying, let me have a look. Let me loose in your kitchen. With that budget, I can make nutritious, healthy food for kids for lunchtime. Let me do it. And he went in. Some schools embraced it, and it was great. Some didn't, did they? Do you remember? Some wouldn't.
Yeah, my daughter's school, they do have really healthy food. My youngest one. But the children tend to like junk. They complain about, my daughter loves it. But some they don't. They prefer to bring their food at home. It's not really pricey. If you were to go and buy proper food at Waitrose, you'll spend about £5. But school dinners, they're like £2.30. So it's not really pricey. But my oldest one as well, she loves it. No, my older one, she doesn't like it. Older kids, they don't like anything that is cooked healthy. They say it's disgusting. So yeah, they that's what they say. Any healthy food that is cooked, they say it's no good. So she would just complain when we go for like evening. I don't know, maybe it's because her school they make it too much posh food. I don't know. So when we go for school dinners, there's this like the food is it's a posh school, so the food is like okay. Is really, really glamorous and everything, but children don't like things like that. They like things, very simple things. If you mix things or you give them these food that are really cooked. I like Jamie Oliver's style as well, where he just taught. I think most English schools here in UK, they did to try to adopt the recipes and they followed that, but some they didn't because it's cheap. They're saving money.
Right. And I think that's a good thing. But I know he got some frustration with it because some schools didn't embrace it. And he's like, why would you not? You know, but yeah, like you say, some did. And that's a fantastic thing because it really does matter. Back to what my father used to say, be careful what you're eating. It goes inside you. And I just want to twist this around if I can for a moment from the food. I always say as a coach and a trainer, be careful what you read, because that stuff gets inside your head. Be careful what you read. Be careful of who your environment, who you put yourself around. That affects you because environment can be stronger than willpower. Okay. So, our parents used to say, don't hang around with the wrong gang. Don't hang around with the wrong people. Oh, okay, Mum. But you know what? They're right. It affects your thoughts. It affects your behavior. And of course, people have a tribe mentality. Human beings are programmed to have that. So whether that's your school friends, whatever, and that will affect what you're eating, etc. Be careful, because all of these things you never think is going to be an issue for you now, and probably won't be now. It will later. And time goes fast. Weeks, days, months, years come and go. You look at the cycle of life, and then suddenly you're products of your history. So be careful of what you do. So I'm always, in the world of coaching and training, we always say, don't watch TV. It's bad for you. One trainer calls it an electronic income reducer, right? TV. And people can spend a lot of time on TV. Do I watch TV? Yeah, occasionally. But I'm selective on what I watch. If that makes sense. I love documentaries. I don't just watch documentaries. Sometimes my job involves me thinking all day. I'm just thinking. So sometimes at the end of the day, is it nice just to watch TV and to think of nothing? Yeah, I find it quite therapeutic. I'm not really listening to it. It's just there in the background. I'm chilling. But I tend to watch documentaries. I like to think about art, music, science, business, and culture. And that's the sort of stuff I like. And I don't think that's too bad for you. But we all put stuff. And I was coaching someone yesterday, and they said, the similar topic to what we're talking about today, actually, and as a side note, and then they were saying, they felt very bad what hadn't worked well for them was dad watched TV, and I said, have you done good work as well? So did you watch TV? Yeah, and I watched a movie. I said, I don't think that's too bad if you just didn't spend all day or all week watching a movie. we are allowed to have some leisure time, and that's healthy too, having a work-life balance. And I think it comes down to what you were saying, Nobsa. With kids, let kids be kids to some extent. It is important that kids do kids things. It's what they should be doing at that time in their life. It makes them better adults, and it would help them, I think, when they become parents, to look back and remember that kids do need to be kids. So, it shouldn't be all hard work. Life should enjoy it, and just keep the balance right. Just keep a sensible approach is what I would think. Nobsa, what's your thoughts?
I love what you're saying, Grant, that it doesn't do no harm to watch all the program that are educating you, because we have to know what is happening on earth. Like when you watch a documentary, when you watch these nature programs, reality TV, not so much. I'm not sure if they educate you. I always say to my daughter, why do you watch it? What does she watch? What's this program in the jungle that they go to Australia for? What is it called? So I'm like, why are you watching that? I'm like, I hope you're basically watching people who are naked and they think they're like dating. Like, what do you know about, what is it called?
It's something, I think you're almost right with what you said. I don't watch it. I don't watch any of those, what they call reality shows, right?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get reality shows. I mean, just go out and speak to real people. That is reality. That is real. We're living reality now. Reality is when you go out and live it. I don't need to watch other people doing what I do. Well, I don't go naked on a desert island, but they're just doing normal stuff. People hanging out, talking and conflicting. Well, yeah, I can get that for free, and I don't even enjoy it. It's like, why do I want to sit there and watch other people do things that I can do? And they're not the most interesting things anyway, are they? I mean, like, I don't get reality shows. And of course, the marketing aspect of a reality show. It will be, that will be in England, then it'll be like Canada, then it'll be US. It's the same thing. It's just a big marketing campaign. And it's watching, it's called reality, but it's someone else's reality. It's not yours. I just don't get the whole concept. It just seems mad. I always feel like you're from up there looking down, like if you're from outer space looking down on the human race. What are they doing? They're sitting there watching on a television other people doing the most mundane things that they could do. I mean, why?
What's the one with Auntie and Dick? What's the and Dick? What's the reality TV Auntie and Dick? I like that one where they eat disgusting food. What is it?
I don't know.
In Australia. Get me out of here. No, is it a celebrity? Get me out of here.
Yeah, I think so.
I like it when they actually go and eat the food. They give them really, really disgusting food. That's the party that I watch when, like, they say you have to go and work for your team now for them to have food, and then they eat them. They like eat really, really like lion liver. What's that? Lion liver mixed with so many things. I love when they eat it and then they vomit.
What is it? It sounds to me like years ago, I think this was from that Japanese show Banzai.
Yeah.
And the kids from colleges would do disgusting things and have like snakes and lizards dropped on their head and stuff like that. And they would all do it. And they did it for their university and stuff like that. It was all team stuff. I mean, it sounds to me like brainwashing, if I'm really honest. But I'll let you make your own judgment on that. But it's amazing what people will do again for your tribe, right? For your tribe. Give people a tribe, give them a different color t-shirt, give them a badge, give them a chant. Boom, you can get people to do what you want. It's creating your cult. There you go again. But I mean, yeah, if you enjoy watching people vomit, I mean, great. I've seen excerpts of it. I don't think I've ever watched an entire show.
I don't watch it very often, but I just pass through and I'm like, oh my God, this is disgusting. It's the torture. I think mentally it just shows, it shows that, like, That's why I don't go camping in UK. If someone says, no, sir, let's go camping, I'm like, you want me to go camping and go and have a shower in an actually proper shower? You want me to go and camping and go and eat food in a restaurant? So I'm like, I'm not going to do that. That's not camping. That's cheating. So camping, it means go and eat food, like barbecue, like eating healthy food. That's what we do. Like if we say, no, sir, there's camping, I just want to do like fire all the time, all the way until I come back. I need to feel I'm in the jungle, not cheating. So I'm like, I said to Hope, her dad was like, we need to go camping. And I was like, guys, I'm not going to camping and eat beggars. So I don't do camping. I was like to my daughter, I don't do camping. She was 9 years old. I was like, I have to be honest with you. I don't do camping. Her dad tried it for 2 years, 9, 10, 11. And in the end, he was like, I'm following your mom now. I don't do camping either.
Do you realize, Nomsa, what you've just done?
Yeah.
You've just created a new idea.
What?
Show. There we go. We all go camping and we film it, and it becomes a new TV show.
Yeah, actually, one day we could actually go camping. That would be nice, and we just eat like healthy food, like what Amanda. Because let's get Amanda get some ideas with good food, and then one day you can go and just broadcast in the jungle, proper food. For me, if you want me to get camping, I just need to go and do the real thing. I don't want to cheat. Camping it means I just go and just reality and just enjoy that without phones, without anything. So that's what I enjoy about camping. But anything else where I go and then I have to eat beggar, I'm not camping.
Talk show in the forest. I think that's it, guys. I think that's where
What do you think, Nick?
I think it comes down to.
Can't hear you.
I think it comes down to being conscious. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you now.
Conscious consumption, whatever it is. So whether it's that documentary or that, that show that maybe isn't the best, but it's, your leisure time and you're conscious about it. And it's not something that you're doing all the time, and those once in a while foods and whatnot. But overall, I look at this kind of holistically, and Amanda definitely touched on that, is like, overall, what are you consuming in a day? What music are you listening to? What people are you surrounding yourself with? What are you watching on TV? What's your social media intake like? What are you drinking? What are you putting in your body as a whole? And something that I look back on in my journey here, in my kind of, I guess I'd call it my spiritual awakening over the past 3 years. And a lot of it was unconscious at first, but so for my generation, so I'm 43, just about 44. And so the internet has been a thing since I've been basically kind of late, mid-teens to late teens. And then specifically with the availability of pornography on the internet from when I was that age is something that I've just grown up with, and it's always been there. And it's something that I didn't really think about until quite recently. And then it's been about over 3, almost, or might even be 4 years actually, where I just, and it wasn't a conscious decision, but I just decided to stop looking at porn on the internet. And that has really been a big shift for me, and it's really helped me personally. And then, so that I cut that out. And then very shortly after, I stopped drinking alcohol completely. I shouldn't say completely. I haven't been intoxicated in almost 4 years. But I'll still have like a part of a beer, but I'm at the point now where when I do have a drink of alcohol, it tastes like, I don't know if you remember when you were a kid and you would have like a sip of your dad's beer or whatever, and how it tasted. That's how it tastes to me now, because I haven't had it for so long. So cut out alcohol, pornography, and then started really watching what I'm eating and putting in my body. And so it all just kind of comes together it has come together for me in just more conscious consumption. And then at the end of my policing career, I was in a gang suppression unit. And so we're going into these shisha bars and like where they're playing this gangster kind of like rap sort of music. And then I was finding myself actually listening to it, during a workout or whatever, let's say. And it's all really, really negative, dark stuff. Like when you actually pay attention to it, and like that's all going into your subconscious and whatnot. So that's something that I don't listen to anymore. And then as I kind of evolved and my former life fell apart, and I ended up with PTSD, as you guys know, I got to the point where I can't, and I still can't. I can't watch anything with any sort of violence at all. Like even, I shouldn't say that. If it's like ridiculous violence that's like fake, I'm good with it. But if it's any sort of realistic sort of violence portrayal on TV, I'm out. I will not watch any movies or listen to any music again with any sort of violence. And I mean, going too far that way and like not exposing yourself to anything, I don't know if that's maybe the answer either, but it's kind of finding this happy medium of conscious consumption is what it comes down to for me. And that's what I think that's why I think this topic is so interesting and so important, is to just get into people's awareness that all these things are affecting you, and you might not realize it because you've been doing it for so long, or everybody else is doing it, or any number of different kind of ways you can rationalize things, but it's all affecting you, and in, I would suggest, negative ways in a lot of cases. And so I think this is great just to highlight that. And I think, and specifically, I think this app is amazing for on the food side, because yeah, kids don't want to listen to their parents. And this is a great way to have an unbiased third party where they can actually see that number. I love that. And that's like the red and the green. So they like know exactly what they're doing, and it's not coming from mom or dad. And I'll just finish one thing. I heard recently there's a reason why our kids won't listen to us between about, I think they said about 13 to 24 is when like kids don't want to hear anything their parents have to say. And the reason is because, and this goes back obviously like tens of thousands of years, like in our evolution. So those years are our prime, basically mating years or reproductive years. I'm not saying that anyone should be getting mating at 13, but that's when obviously the body is capable of that. And so that innate drive to push away from the family is actually to keep the genetic pool clean, basically, is to push away from the family. So then you're outside of the family for those prime years to not keep things in the family, if that makes sense. I'm awkwardly kind of going about explaining this, but it makes sense. It's like, yeah, why do all kids have that innate drive to like just push away from their family? And it's like, when you think of it on an evolutionary scale, it actually it makes sense. And then it makes me as a parent feel a little bit better, right? It's like, oh, they're pushing away because they don't want my genes to reproduce in the next generation. It's just like an innate, like it's in their just DNA, and it's just part of human nature. And so anyways, that's all I wanted to say.
That's great. And you know, Nick, when you were talking about various things, and you were talking about obviously violence in movies, I get what you mean. I always quite liked what I call James Bond violence, because it's so unrealistic. It's, you know, as especially years ago, they'd shoot someone and then there'd be like a perfect little red dot here or something, you know, they'd look perfect. It looks so, I mean, in a way, that's probably the worst one because it looks so okay, you know, but it's what I call gold edged violence. You know, it looks perfectly fine. But if you watch some of those British, I find British gangster movies, they're really gritty. They're really, and you're like, oh God, yeah, I've seen stuff like that. And that's really messy. You know, that looks really real and just completely unglamorous and rough and just, oh, like that's just grotesque. And And I find that particularly repulsive, particularly realistic, particularly repulsive. Perhaps the type you should see, because it ain't nice. It ain't nice in any way, shape, or form. But the James Bond stuff, you know, people get their legs cut off and liquidized and stuff, and it just looks like a cartoon, if you were like that. That's sort of say. Not so much the recent ones. The recent ones have got a little bit more gritty. But yeah, it's life can get tough. Be careful what you consume. Be careful what you consume. And I think you said it beautifully, Nick. You know, conscious consumption. You know, if you're doing something a little bit naughty, if you're having a few drinks, or if you're doing that, just say, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing that tonight. That's okay. I will balance that out. Best to not do it, but yeah, balance. And of course, it's not just physical; it's mental as well. It's mental as well. So yeah, like I said to one client the other day, don't beat yourself up for watching a movie. You know, that's okay. Yeah, get the proportion. Don't spend all day doing it. Don't spend, you know, don't and be careful what you, not only the volume, the length of time you're doing it, but what you're doing. I mean, you get these things to monitor on our phones, can't you? You know, social media time has been X, it's up this amount since last month, or down, or it's interesting to see where you spend your time. And I think this goes way beyond just, you know, social media or food, everything. How much time am I spending doing X each month? Worth looking at it and tracking from all points of view, just to make sure, are you living your life the way you want to live it? That's what I thought. Mandy, you're nodding away like crazy there. What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I love that. How much that's one thing I talk about all that time is, are you conscious of what you're spending your time doing? And are you unconsciously consuming massive amounts of, or are you a creator? And so many of us are passive consumers, and I've talked about this so many times. We're just passive consumers of other people's content, and really what we want to instill in others is to be conscious creators, because when we're creating, that's when we feel the most alive. And when we're creating, there's so much research on this. And in my master's degree, I initially was doing master's in education technology, and it quickly shifted to how can we use our own creativity and utilize technology to empower that, right? Is essentially like all of my stuff turned from using technology to be more creative rather than just like researching how we can use technology best in the classroom. Because even as I finished my master's, all of the technologies that I was using was already obsolete. And so that creativity piece is so important, because that's when we feel most alive. That's when I see the kids feeling most alive in the classroom. But consuming certain things is really important too, because then we learn and we have the opportunity to learn. So even just in showing the kids like this table of like the Canadian Food Guide, which is actually like not so bad. It's like half of it should be fruits and vegetables, and then a quarter of your intake should be proteins, and then the other one is the breads. So like it was like a like this, where half of the circle should be fruits and vegetables, and then quarter protein and quarter grains. And I showed that to the kids, and one of the kids was like, what if you eat 50% junk food? I was like, well, now it's your option to be conscious of that. And I said, you can still eat junk food sometimes, but like try to be more conscious of how often you're eating it. And he was like, because like I hate all vegetables except these three. And I was like, and it was carrots, broccoli, and beets. And I was like, well, then just eat more of those three. And but like more of those three than you're eating the junk food. And he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. And it was just like that, like a light bulb had just turned on in his mind by seeing that like chart. He's like, but I eat 50% junk.
Good job he saw it. Good job he saw it. And like, you know, red light flashing. Yeah, exactly. You know,
opportunity to learn. And now that you've learned this, we can do better. So we can't do better until we know better. And when we know better and we've learned and we've consumed something that's going to expand our thinking, that's when we see the most growth. And so in what we're consuming and in what we're talking about right now, if something's clicked with you, you're like, it might just be that pie chart or like that one thing that's like, oh, I should be doing this. And one of the things that I just more recently came into to learn about too was this guy who wrote this book called The Miracle Mornings. And essentially, maybe we can talk about that another day because I know we're already getting close to time. But essentially, he talks about doing these 6 things daily, and it's really empowered his life and gone on to, he's just phenomenal. So I encourage you to look him up and The Miracle Mornings, because it also is about what you're consuming and what you're doing with your time. And that's so, so important. And I just think it's really, sometimes we're not conscious of what we're consuming. And when we start to become conscious of what we're consuming, that's where we're going to see the most growth.
Right.
Yeah, I think if we really want to grow and live longer, we need to eat healthy. My great grandmother died, she was 109, but when I look back in that generation, all they did eat was healthy food. They grew everything. Like my grandmother, they have a farm, they grew everything. But now if you go home, I like the village lifestyle because they're meant to eat everything, to grow everything, but now they're copying the city where they call it is a really nice food, but it's not healthy. Oh, it's 6 minutes past. It's not healthy. And she died. She was healthy because of the lifestyle that she had. So I'm gonna look up that book, Amanda, and see what tips the book has got. Do you have any words of encouragements before you go?
Yeah, well, I think I summed it up with just like, start to be conscious of what you're consuming. And I do have to leave because I have to drive for an hour and a half, but start to be really conscious of what you're consuming. And maybe we can talk about what I learned about the Miracle Mornings and that another day. Anyways, have a wonderful day, everyone.
You too, Amanda. Have a lovely day. Grant, do you have any words of encouragement? And tell the audience who you are, please, before we leave.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, words of encouragement. Words of encouragement is, if you look at that, if you actually analyze what you're eating and you think, oh my God, it's all bad, take that in a positive way. Yeah, the good news is change it. Just change it. And if it's too much for you to change in one go, do it step by step. Just do it. Look at the big guns. Look at the big things that need to change now. Change those ones. And then once you do it, I guess you may get to like it. After, 60 days, if you just stick with it 60 days, it becomes a habit and you'll start liking it. Then just start going back and taking the lesson. My tip is, look at the thing, the one thing you can do that's going to make the biggest difference. Start with that one. Start with that big, that big lever, that big change. Start with that one. And then just start going back. If you can change it all at once, great. If not, just make a change. And that gives your brain positive chemicals, natural chemicals, feel-good chemicals for rewarding yourself. And you know what? Give yourself that pat on the back for making that change. Reward yourself. That will inspire you to make the next change, Constant and never-ending improvement is what I say. And that is empowering. And no one can do that for you, only you, and you have the permission to do it to live a better, more fulfilling life. My name is Grant Burrell. I'm an international speaker, coach, trainer, and an international best-selling author. And over the last 20 years now, 20 years, myself and an international team have helped thousands of individuals, entrepreneurs, businesses, and organizations across 15 plus countries, helping to increase profits by up to 200%, often in just a few short months, by working on the team, the systems, their mindset, and their strategy. And this is often about the habits we have. And today we've been talking about habits. So this is also that you can live a life of happiness, fulfillment, and so you can leave a legacy for future generations. Nick, over to you.
Yeah, that was great. You basically hit everything that I would have liked to have said. So I'll just kind of sum up, I guess, my takeaways today. And that's to, first of all, until you know, you just don't know, right? And if you don't know what you're consuming, then can't do any better. So just becoming conscious of it and then just thinking about it. And don't beat yourself up, and give yourself grace and let yourself have those guilty pleasures still, but don't let that be the rule. Let that be the exception. And don't be, again, too hard on yourself. It's going to be a process for sure, cutting out these things that maybe you've been doing for decades or longer potentially, and just be aware of it and do what you can. And once you start to feel those results and see those results, it'll be that positive loop that Grant just touched on. And so just get started, I guess, basically is all I would like to say. And so again, my name is Nick, and I run a conscious apparel brand here in Canada. And it's just it's another thing that we put on our body, but what our skin is our largest organ. And so when you're putting on these synthetic fibers all the time, your skin is absorbing that. And specifically if you're exercising and sweating and moving in this clothing, you're absorbing those chemicals. And so our focus here at Flow State Designs is to negate that with natural fibers. And so all our clothing is made with hemp and organic cotton, and is just a conscious way to clothe yourself and look awesome doing it. So I always say, look good, feel good, do good. So that's my brand, and that's what I've been up to since moving on from my previous life in policing, like I quickly mentioned. And that's it for me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Nick and Grant. For me, I will say, if you're somebody who's obsessed with social media, replace social media with something else. Yes, you can go on social media, see what your friends get up to and connect with other people. But at the same time, you get creative. Creativity is the key to everything that we want to do in life. And eat health. Have time to, instead of buying expensive makeup or expensive shoes or we can cut down and just go and buy extra food. Just organic food is it's not expensive. The food is not expensive if you actually save money and just buy healthy food. When I go shopping, I just buy food that if I was to go with these guys shopping, everybody's banned anyway in my house, because when I go with them, they want to go to junk food, they want to go to that place. So it's a distraction. So I say to them, tell me the kind of food that you want, and then I'll bring it. So if it makes sense, if it's healthy, I'll just buy it. But if I'm on my own, it means I can take time and just buying proper food, buy food that is needed as well, and just enjoy life. Life is so precious, and really, really precious, and embrace it as well. And don't compare your life with anybody else. Like if you see people on social media and then you want to go and you're like, oh, sometimes people take snaps of food, pictures of food, and they put it on social media. So you don't have to do that. Just when you see that, admire it. When you go home, you just go and buy your healthy food. That chicken that you can barbecue it, maybe put it in the oven without oil and just cook it nicely with your favorite things in it, and just grill it and just enjoy it. It's healthy. Yeah, keep it simple. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. We're here at Nkosi Talk Shows Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. And those who are looking for my website is coming soon. It will be up soon. So just hang in there, maybe by the end of the week. And God bless everyone. Live with grace.